Hi, in this video, we'll learn how to write a recipe with Recipe Creator. In this video, we'll do a quick overview of the tool. We'll briefly discuss the different types of recipes, but then more specifically, we'll be focusing on the row section of Recipe Creator. There are two other main sections. There's the column section and the nav section, but we'll have separate videos for those. In addition, we'll be covering the Easy Finder as well as the Advanced Finder for the row section, and then the other two videos will also cover the Easy Finder and the Advanced Finder for those. So that said, let's go ahead and get started. So let's open up Data Miner, and to open up Recipe Creator, we'll click on the little pencil icon in the top right corner of the pop-up, and this will open up a new recipe within Recipe Creator. The first tab we see is just the Welcome tab. There's just some basic information there we recommend you reading, and then the next tab is the type. So Data Miner can scrape two types of pages. It can scrape a list page, which is what we're looking at. A list page is typically like a search results page, or a long list of items, or a table. And then it can also scrape a detail page, which is more like a profile page or a product page. So if we were to click into one of these profiles, we would then be looking at a detail page. But this is going to be doing a list page, so we'll choose that as our option. And actually, if you're doing a detail recipe right now, you can actually skip ahead to our columns video, because you don't have to worry about building rows when doing a detail recipe. The row section is designed to give or to tell Data Miner how to organize your output data when there are multiple items on a page, or multiple like people, places, or things. But when you're doing a detail recipe, all the data is specific to one person, place, or thing. So all the data will be on one single row, so you don't need to worry about how to organize the multiple rows. So again, if you're doing a detail recipe, you can skip ahead to our columns video, but we still recommend watching this video because it's still going to be helpful information. So back to the list recipe. So that has now been chosen. So we can go to the next tab, which is page. This is just kind of some advanced optional stuff. You essentially can use this section to enhance your recipe, so it can click on something to like reveal information. For example, it can click a button to reveal an email, or scroll to the bottom of the page to reveal more information. This is all kind of advanced optional stuff, so we're not going to worry too much about that in this video. So let's now go to the Rows tab, and we'll start with the Easy Row Finder. So this process will essentially just walk you through a wizard, and it'll turn your mouse into a magic wand. And following the instructions, you'll want to take your mouse and hover over the first piece of data, and then hit 1 on your keyboard, and then find the next instance of that same data, so the second person's name, and then we hover over that and hit 2 on our keyboard. And then automatically, just like that, we found the different rows for these different people. So the red dotted line essentially represents the different containers that Data Miner will be using. It's gonna tell Data Miner where the data is coming from and how to organize it. So each one of these different boxes will essentially become your different rows in your final output file. So each person will have their own row in your final CSV or Excel file. It also tells you here that there are 4 rows found, which looks good. So now we can hit confirm. And at this point, you could actually move on to the next section, the columns. But for now, I'm actually going to now do the same process again, but with the Advanced Finder. Because the Easy Row Finder, we designed it to work on many different websites, but obviously there are quite a few websites out there, so it may not work every time. You might end up with more rows than you need, or maybe not enough rows, or maybe it just does not work. If you issue you're having, you can then use the Advanced Finder. The Advanced Finder is pretty much the same process. It just allows you to manually find the selectors and kind of specifically choose which ones to use. And a selector is just simply the information here at the bottom. So this is just information taken straight from the page's HTML. The website doesn't know you're doing this. It's just simply like copying and pasting, and it doesn't affect the website at all. But these selectors are essentially pieces of information or pieces of HTML that Data Miner is going to use to later reference the page, know where to find the data, and know how to scrape it. So to find these manually, let's go ahead and delete that and start over. So to find them manually, we'll click the Advanced Finder. Again, it turns your mouse into like a magic wand. And then here, instead of going after specific pieces of data, we want this highlighted color to wrap around one entire row. And if you can't get it perfect, that's okay. So you can actually start anywhere. So let's just say right here is good. So now I'll hit Shift on my keyboard. So and now this green dotted line represents where Recipe Creator is focusing its attention, and it's starting to suggest different selectors. Recipe Creator will recommend 3 different types of selectors. It'll recommend an element, which is going to be the most generic type on the page. So if I choose this div, you'll see that it's identifying many different parts of the page. So that is not ideal. So the next option is classes. So this is a little bit more generic. And as you can see, we're kind of getting there. It looks much more cleaner with fewer things highlighted or outlined. And then you may also see an ID from time to time, but an ID is the most specific type of element or most specific type of selector. And it's typically going to only capture one item. So you will most likely only see that on detail pages. So that covers the kind of different types of selectors you'll see within Recipe Creator. You can actually also use anything from within the HTML here at the bottom. So we recommend different selectors and what is provided here, but you can actually use anything as long as they're in square brackets. So if we look at the HTML here, and again, this is just a sample part of the page, you'll see that there is a class called headline. So this is going to capture the person's name. But if we were to highlight this and then copy it, and then now in this input box, we can actually manually type. So if I do a square bracket, and then I do paste, and then I do a closing square bracket, and I do confirm. Oops, I missed the quotation. Cool. So now as you can see, I guess we're using a class, but we're kind of manually choosing it from the HTML, and now it's capturing just the person's name. So I guess this is definitely good to know. Again, you can use anything from within the HTML as long as you copy the entire thing in attributes, but I realized I'm kind of off topic now, where you want to focus more on the row selector rather than capturing the data. So let's go ahead and delete that. And again, let's start over. So I hover and hit Shift. We are now focusing on this box, but obviously we need this dotted line to wrap around the entire row. So to do that, we can actually use this parent button within Recipe Creator. So if we click this, it will actually allow us to move up the HTML. And as you can see, we're now getting to the full row, which is good. And we have a class here called row. So let's give that a try. And we're getting there. So we now have a dotted red line wrapped around each individual, but we're also capturing the title at the top as well as the pagination. So we're not quite there, but we're close. So what I recommend is just doing that again. So let's click the parent button once more. And we now have a class called person container. That looks good. So let's choose that. And that's great. So yeah, that is exactly what we're looking for. We now have a red dotted line wrapped around every individual. So what this means is now each person will have their own row in your output file. I also wanted to say that, so this process, it does require a little bit of troubleshooting. Sometimes you will have more obvious selectors where it says exactly what you're looking for, or it might just be a combination of letters and numbers. So sometimes it is hard to tell. So ultimately, what it requires is just a little bit of trial and error and troubleshooting. But with some practice, it definitely becomes much easier. But that pretty much covers this row section. The next step would be then to go to the columns tab and go after the actual pieces of data. So that will be the next video. But I hope this was helpful for building your rows. I guess thanks for watching. And if you have any questions, definitely send us an email at support@dataminer.io. And I guess thanks for watching.